answers. I had on my Instagram some people, I just asked, what do you want to know about? And a couple people replied and responded, so I'm going to kind of go through some of those things today. Some of them are pretty simple, or just about general things, and then one of them kind of dives into stuff that I'm really excited to talk about, so I'll save that for the last. But the first one is pretty simple. Where do you get your inspiration from? In the beginning, when I first started perfuming, I got my inspiration from memories, experiences, and different things like that. So like Cafe Fiesta, for instance, was coffee and tropical scents. So I'm from San Diego, and I live in San Diego. So the beach is obviously a very important part of my life. Grew up going to the beach a lot. So that's kind of what got that inspiration. I wanted to make something with coffee, so I've always wanted to make my own coffee scent, because coffee fragrances in the just in the world in general, I wasn't finding something that I really enjoyed, so I wanted to make one for myself, I guess. So that's kind of what inspired me to do that. Now it's kind of transpired into something completely different. I tend to focus on one material or two materials in general, and then make things around that. So for instance, Yuzu Grove is around yuzu, or Vanilla Fantasy is based around vanilla. So that's kind of what it's come to now. I find that to be really fun and interesting. So that's kind of what inspires me. So another thing that inspires me is the odd and weird kind of materials, or things that aren't used very often or at all. So I try to find really unique materials that aren't used, that people don't know about. I try and tincture things myself if I can't find it, or create it myself if possible. That's where a lot of the learning is. But yeah, so it's kind of an inspiration, and that's kind of where it comes from, just mostly experience, because I think to myself, scent is the most powerful way to recall a memory. I can smell certain things, and it immediately brings me back to a certain moment. I went to Rome right before the pandemic, and I wore Mont Blanc Explorer pretty much the whole time I was there. And I can smell it now, and it will instantly bring me back to like when I was in Rome. It's that memory. It's one of our most primitive and most powerful recalls that we can have, because our olfactory is connected to our amygdala, which is in the hippocampus, which is where we make memories. So I don't know, I thought that was pretty cool. Another person said, what is your palate like? Constantly changing. I think as we get older, I know when I was a kid I didn't like tomatoes, I didn't like coconut. Now I love tomatoes, I love coconut. So I mean, just as much as our taste changes, I know our smell changes. Back a couple years ago when I got into fragrances, I used to like just fresh citrusy stuff. But now I'm finding myself to like more of the gourmand, the woody, the spicy. Oud fragrances were a huge no for me. Now it's a huge yes. So, I mean, I still enjoy fresh and citrusy fragrances, but not as much as I enjoy like the sweeter, denser stuff. I've been playing a lot more spicy fragrances, amber. Yeah, so that it's kind of been changing, but that's kind of where I'm at right now, especially as we get into the colder months. But I always tell, if I want to wear something sweet and dense in the heat, I'll wear it, I don't care. Of course, there are things that are a little bit, less pleasurable to the person wearing it if it's real strong and it's got a lot of sillage and you're getting it yourself. That's a much different story. The last thing here I want to talk about is somebody said, what smells are aphrodisiac and why? So I don't really believe in the whole aphrodisiac effect of things. I believe it could all be like a placebo effect or psychosomatic. There is, in Harry Potter, oddly enough, and I think it was a Half-Blood Prince, there is, when they're making one of the potions, I remember they're asking I forgot what it was called, I should leave that up. Hermione was smelling it, and she's saying it attracts whatever the person is smelling it really likes. So for her, I believe it was like fresh parchment, mint toothpaste, and freshly mown grass. So, I mean, those are the things that she finds attractive. So I don't really believe personally like, oh, you smell like, X or Y, and then you're gonna, be, women are gonna be all over you. I don't think it works that way. I've never been one of the people that are like, I need to wear fragrance to get compliments or to attract the other people. I've never been like that, and I never really worried about it. But I believe it's different for everybody. But with that being said, there are some things when consumed that there are, people have used aphrodisiacs for centuries, if not thousands of years as humans. So that's kind of what I've been delving into. First one, of course, is oysters. Oysters have something called D-aspartic acid and N-methyl D-aspartate. It's also found in most mollusks. It has been known to have an aphrodisiac effect, but there is no definitive evidence that show that it does have that kind of capacity. Chocolate, it contains phenylethylamine, which has been known to cause like a romantic high, but it's digested so quickly that it doesn't really get to the brain. So again, there's no evidence that really proves that consuming chocolate will give you that kind of an effect. There's another one, a widely used material known in perfumery. It's collected from the excrement of sperm whales, which sounds terrible and gross, which I guess it kind of is, but that's a lot of things from back in the day. So they extracted a compound from it called amberine, and they injected it into rats, and they did see some sort of an increase in sexual behavior in rats, but there's no conclusive data for humans or evidence to show that it has the same effect. Material is probably the most promising in looking for an aphrodisiac effect. It's called yohimbe bark. It consists of something called yohimbin, which has been known to treat ED or erectile dysfunction, and it can help support and keep an erection going. And it's also been known to increase sexual behavior in both animals and humans, and there is a study that shows that. But this is after weeks and weeks and weeks of treatment, so it's not something you just take once and call it a day. Like, it sounds like quite an extensive featly enough. Nutmeg contains a compound called myristicin. Nutmeg is in high doses can cause a hallucinogenic effect, and it's psychoactive. In animals, it's shown to have a possible influence in sexual behavior, but there's no, again, conclusive evidence that shows that. So they still use it widely as an insecticide rather than as an aphrodisiac. So, of course, if you take large amounts, it probably make you really sick, so I wouldn't recommend it. This material is probably the most interesting one. It comes from a Spanish fly, which is known as a blister beetle. It excretes something called cantharidin. I think that's how you spell it, cantharidin. It's excreted by the beetle. It was used in ancient times as an aphrodisiac, but after a while, people realized that it was actually quite toxic and poisonous. So they outlawed it, and you're not allowed to consume it anymore for good reason. It's crazy because it's actually excreted from the beetle whenever it feels threatened. And another cool thing about, well, I guess cool, but another thing about it is that when it's done mating with the female, it'll actually like gift her some, so that when she's laying her eggs, she'll cover her eggs in this stuff, and it'll protect it from the predators that are, trying to eat all their stuff. But in large doses, it can cause toxic skin burns, and it's just generally not good. But in small doses, there has been evidence that it treats molluscum contagiosum, or warts. So they can extract the specific cantharidin and put it into ointments and actually use that to get rid of warts, which I guess is useful. So that's all for my first Q&A. I really like doing stuff like this. I really want to interact with you guys and get to know what you want to know. I love teaching, so anything I can do to help educate, feel free to leave stuff in the comments as well, or you can message me on Instagram at @RomanStaySalazar, or I'll just keep coming out with this content. Hopefully you guys like it. Yeah, so I'll definitely be back with doing more of these. I have some other things coming up that I'm working on, so I'm learning how to edit, so it takes some time. There's a sale going on the website. Don't forget to check that out. Really cool things on Patreon too. I'll have that linked in the description. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon.